Welcome to the TMRN Time Monk Radio Network. I'm Jules, and today is the 2nd of April 2011. We have author and researcher Mr. John Lash. John's website is www.metahistory.org. Hi John, and welcome to the WebBot Forum Roundtable.
Hi there. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. The WebBot administrator is Fox, and today he'll be doing the recording and technical support of the show. Several members of the forum were kind enough to join us tonight. They include moderators Lolly, members Patrick, Dead Poet, Uranus Rising, and Odison. For listeners, this interview will assume you have a fairly good understanding of John's work on alternative history, including the Nag Hammadi texts, as well as a vast array of John's interviews on YouTube. This video will be available on YouTube for free on the WebBot Forum channel and linked from webbotforum.com. John, are you all ready to go, sir?
I sure am.
Fantastic. John, as a first question, we wanted to know what your opinion was on the WebBot project. All humans are psychic, and those psychic impressions are leaked out in our everyday lives many ways, from actions we take, instinct, through our body gestures, and through the words we use in conversation, verbally and written, which is what Cliff uses. What do you think of this premise, and more importantly, if you have read the reports and Cliff's articles, what do you think of his forecasts and the theory of an expanding Earth and Sun?
Oh, well, that's quite a question. I'll start by responding to the last phrase. I think the expanding Earth and Sun theory is sensational and just about the best thing to come along in a while. I think it will be extremely helpful, for instance, in understanding the physics of the Earth and some of the Earth changes that we're facing right now. I think it's a tremendous breakthrough. As for Cliff's work in general, I must say I haven't really followed it that closely. I'm more aware of his reputation than I am of the particular contents or even the method of what he does. I did hear a long interview with him on Red Ice or something. Very impressive, a very cogent mind, and I found some of his perspectives and his way of treating things to be fascinating. I just don't know about using the internet as a kind of oracular or divinatory device. I don't know one way or the other. I wouldn't rule it out. Of course, we do have this sea of chatter that we float in, of the collective unconscious, and it's possible, given that many people are putting that chatter into this medium, that you could go in and extract from this medium a portrait of what is going on in the unconscious or the subconscious. My own history with divination has been a long one, but the type of divination that I practice has been totally natural, involving gazing at the stars and the traditional forms of watching omens in the sky, omens in nature, plants and animals, and so forth. So I can't really say much more than that. I also, I did astrology, a form of astrology, for about 35 years, and I was a professional in that genre. And one of the first things that I used to say to clients, I had a couple of disclaimers, and one disclaimer was that I didn't predict. So I'm not very much into prediction. And I wonder, given the pace of events these days, if prediction might be going out of style as events are catching up very fast with what is being predicted. There's a tremendous momentum shift in time happening right now. In any case, I can see the value and the challenge to see what's coming. I guess you could say that I find another challenge in to be what's coming.
Okay, thank you, John. Just a quick follow-up on that. You mentioned the pace of change occurring. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Terence McKenna and his concept of the eschaton and the end of time. So do you think that's probably what's happening, a quickening?
Right. I think there's a quickening in the consciousness, in the awareness of the earth. I know there is. I use the analogy of a lucid dream to describe the condition of the planetary consciousness, the planetary awareness of Gaia, or Gaia Sophia. So if you consider that Gaia Sophia, the planet we inhabit, is an entity, a being, consider that not that she's waking from a dream, but that she's waking up in a dream. She's having a lucid dream. And those of you who've had lucid dreams, and many people have had them, will notice something happens when you wake up in a lucid dream. There's a state of intense excitement and agitation, and things speed up very quickly in the dream as soon as you realize that you are awake but still dreaming. So I would consider that this accounts to a large extent for the phenomenal change that can be felt now in the rhythm and pacing of events and in the flow of time itself.
Thank you, John. We have two other opening questions before we jump into it. The first is from Dead Poet.
Well, I pretty much follow the Tibetan view, which has been expressed in also in Asian metaphysics, in the Vedanta or Tantric teachings, that awakening, as we call it, is a perpetual process. It's happening all the time. It's the nature of consciousness itself to become enlightened, as it were. In Dzogchen and Tibetan Buddhism, they call this the self-liberating nature of mind. They also call it the spontaneously arising Dakini wisdom. So normally we just go through life and we're aware of things that are around us, but we're not necessarily aware of what makes us aware. And well, what makes us aware is the ground consciousness, which is of the nature of bliss, enlightenment, and pure play, pure discovery, as it were. So I consider now that awakening is perpetual, and I live for some years now in a kind of state of perpetual awakening. But in terms of my personal biography, of course, there were key moments that put me on the path I'm on. The first one would have been around the age of 4 when I had a lucid dream of witch, and that witch turned out to be my spiritual guardian. And I think many people have these experiences. I think that from a very early point in life, almost perhaps pre-verbally, some signals may come. Then when we become verbal creatures, we get all kinds of signs, and there are supernatural forces in the background of our lives. I don't think I'm unusual in having had such an encounter. Perhaps what makes me different, if at all, is that I stuck with it. That's the difficult thing, you see. You can have spiritual awakenings all through your life. You can have encounters with the supernatural. You can have glimmers of the greater scheme of things. But you have to stick with it. You have to be rigorous, because there's so many things that happen in the world that will drive it out of you, and so many things coming from other people that will contradict and defy or dismiss that which arises innately. But that which arises innately is the very source of consciousness, and if we can stay with that, we can stay with the whole process of consciousness.
Thank you, John. Lolly has a forum member question. Lolly?
Hi, John. This question is from forum member Bluebird. He would like to know, Freud's ideas are being eclipsed by Jung, Campbell, and people like yourself today. Where is the tipping point here? Please map it out for us.
Well, the tipping point is when we get beyond ideas and theories and we go into the living dynamics of imagination. I won't get into Freud because I don't feel like Freud bashing this evening, but I would just mention that he's someone that is a perfect example of how the worst possible ideas could become current and popular. I mean, you really have to scratch your head about that one. Jung was somewhat better, but not entirely. And he had a lot of problems. Both Freud and Jung, by the way, more or less vampirized women in their own ways. Jung was a bit more gentlemanly and loving about it. But Freud made his career off hysterical women, and he lied about their experiences. Jung also had tremendous input and guidance from women, and he didn't give them much credit for it. So there's a man-woman problem in the background of some of the great, so-called great ideas that have been running this planet. And I would suggest that's why perhaps some of those great ideas aren't so great as they're put up to be. Two things to me are essential for us to get on track in the future. One, to move from mere ideas and theories into a verifiable dynamic of imagination. And two, for more of the directing ideas that we do come up with to be conjointly developed by men and women together, and not simply to come from the great minds of certain men. Finally, I just mentioned Campbell because I'm in his lineage as in a way, as you know. I've said before that if you read Creative Mythology by Joseph Campbell, you'll find in there that he puts out the 4 principles, can't remember what they are right now, in the first 20 pages, the 4 principles of so-called creative mythology, which he understood to be the next step after him. But he didn't actually practice those principles. So for me, Campbell's work is like a diving board, and it brings you right to the end. If you can imagine yourself standing on the end of the diving board, bouncing up and down, that's where Campbell's work will take you regarding the power of imagination. My work is to plunge into the pool.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Lolly. Thank you, John. We've broken up our questions into topics, and this next topic is from Sophia. Lolly, please ask the question.
In the spirit of oral tradition, John, can you tell us the sacred vision theory of the earth, the Sophia myth?
I'd love to. Let's
Great.
get together on a mountaintop, let's build a fire, and give me about 3 days. And while I'm reciting it and dancing, we can all dance and eat and party. It would take about, if we followed the real traditional oral practices of storytelling, such as you find, say, among the Navajo and the Hopi, the American Indians, it would take 4 or 5 hours to tell this story properly. There is a narration of the story on the site Rock the Talk, and there are, of course, written versions of it on Metahistory. What I would like to do in the context of this discussion, if you don't mind, is I would like to tell you what the story is, rather than to tell you episodically the entire story, which would take me at least 40 minutes. So if you don't mind, I'd like to do that.
Yes, please.
That would be great.
Sure. There are many, many creation myths from all cultures of the world. I'm sure you know that. Anybody who's looked into mythology runs into them. This is the most unique creation myth in the entire world. There is nothing else that compares to it. And that is because the Gnostic myth of the divine Sophia, which comes from the pagan mysteries, is actually the biography of the planet Earth. It is a creation myth that not only describes how the Earth came into existence, how the entire solar system came into existence, but it also